podcast for the OWASP Top 10 for Large Language Model Applications. If you'd like to stay up to date with our project, please click subscribe. And if you enjoy the content or have any questions, please feel free to comment and share. Now, on to our meeting.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and get started. So first, I want to welcome everybody to our March 12th meeting. I've got a lot of things to cover today. As I said, I kept seeing more things in this being added to the slides. For those who don't know me, I'm Scott Clinton. I'm one of the co-project leads, and Steve, who often hosts this meeting, is in India right now, out of pocket. So I'll be kind of trying to drive the best I can the ship as we go through today's agenda. I'd like to welcome anybody who this is their first time here. So do we have any first timers who want to put their hands up? It's, we're a very interactive group. So I want to do like a quick, hey, here's who I am, and here's why I've dialed in and what I'm interested in. That would be awesome. See, Bala with his hand up.
Hey, Bala here. I think I'm joining the first time. I got the call from the OWASP Slack group, and I just wanted to join in and listen and see how I can contribute. I've been benefited a lot from the OWASP LLM project a lot, so I just wanted to see if I can contribute anyway. I've been in the security for around 15 years and working in the AI security for the last year, and so I'm a product security lead for the Cerebras AI company. So that's quickly about me.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, good evening. Yeah, hi, good morning, good evening. My name's Tom Hladek. I'm a principal engineer at Intuit, and interested to track what's I think of this group as one of the groups that's kind of at the cutting edge, and want to try to keep I think it's incumbent on us to keep up and see if and like Bala, where we contribute. Let's do that.
That's great.
Thanks.
Welcome, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't say welcome to Bala, welcome, Bala. I'm only working on my first cup of coffee today, so mornings. All right, anyone else?
Sandy, I threw my slides in at the end. There's an update on the definitions, which I published, and then there's some slides on the first meeting of the OWASP Compass. I have to jump. I have to do a presentation. I have to actually drive. It's in person, so I can only stay for about 15 minutes.
Okay, so we'll make the first part quick. We'll jump to your stuff so you can get through your stuff, and then we'll come back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yep, that sounds great. Any other presenters have got anything from the team that's got to go schedule-wise, or is... All right. 2 seconds. All right, so let's cover a couple things I wanted to cover off real quickly. As we talked about, we've been going through a process of, as you know, being kind of moved in the foundation to a what they consider a flagship status for a project because of the work that all the community has done. And as part of that, we've been updating our mission statement, and it hasn't changed dramatically, but I wanted to share it here to let you guys know. It's just a couple of minor tweaks. It's really as many of us know, we started out as the top 10 for LLM single document group, and now we've grown into a group that is publishing research and support across a variety of categories. So as part of that transition, we wanted to do two things. We're looking to rename the project as the Gen AI Security Project, because it's more in relation with the new things that we are publishing, from red teaming to agentic application security to top 10, continuing to work on that, the security solutions, and the things that Sandy will talk about also with the Compass initiatives. So we have this broad group that we developed, and we needed to kind of come up with a name that kind of captured this broader focus. And so we're going through that transition. And so the first thing I wanted to share here is we just tweaked our mission statement just a little bit, and just to really focus on that broadened focus. You can take a look at it. We've also now rolled these out on the website as part of our rolling branding strategy. So the new mission and charter is public, as is an updated introduction, which talks a little bit about the history of how we got to where we are. And so feel free to refer to that. If anybody has any comments on the core team on the mission statement, feel free to give me feedback and tweak on that. So have a look at that. Also, I want to give a quick update. We have worked on our consolidated and updated governance. So we've been working we've had governance located in multiple places. And so we now made it all in one place to make it easier for organizations and individuals to plug in, understand how we are making decisions as a group. It's all based on merits. It's the traditional open source approach that we've taken to it. What we've just taken the opportunity to document it a bit easier so people can understand how we make decisions, et cetera. So it's just a little bit of the housekeeping of how we keep the organization kind of headed toward the future and making sure that it's set up to be extensible for the future. The other piece of this is with this comes a little bit of tweaking with how we're structuring the group. Today, we're structured with co-leads, which leads the group. We have our core team. Because we started as a very fast-moving project, we started out with some individual documents. We started creating our initiatives, which are the central part of how we organize today. And then we have some other key lists and groups that we've structured together, whether it be sponsor management, outreach, translations. These are all working groups. So to make it easier for people to onboard and also to provide more extensibility, we're making some tweaks to how we organize to make it easier to plug in and go. So what that means is we're taking our project leads. We're basically creating a project board. And that board the benefit of moving to more of a board structure is it helps us move toward more elected positions, looks more toward the future and how we can keep this organization sustained over the long term, and gives us that flexibility to be much more community oriented, et cetera, without disrupting a lot of how we're doing business today. The other piece is the core team started out as the top 10 for LLM initiative. And our core team, we're going to be splitting that out because or responsibilities were split between different individuals, whether they're going to be part of sort of the core project management team. And we're having to identify those individuals will be part of the initiative now also, since we're folding out the top 10 for LLM initiative as its own initiative. So over the next couple of weeks, Steve, myself, and others will be in touch with the core team members as we kind of identify the folks who want to do both pieces, who want to do one part. So more details on that to come. I just wanted to give folks a heads up on this. Steve sent out a text or a Slack message earlier this week, letting you know that we're kind of working through these final changes, and then we'll come hopefully in the next meeting that we do, and I'll be able to identify, say, here's what our board looks like, here's who our each of the teams are, and then we'll be able to continue to kind of roll forward from there. We're also taking our individual documents, folding those into initiatives to make sure that we have a consistent approach, and then also taking some of these key lists and groups and putting them into committees. And then this all ties into the governance that we're doing, Governance 2.0, which is just now it's all documented so people can see how we do voting, how we make decisions, all that sort of thing. And the whole idea and principles of the community are now documented to make it easier for people to understand and plug in. I had several, like Bala, you asked about how can I plug in and start doing things. This should be able to help you understand kind of who's where, who's who in the zoo, and how I can jump in quickly and start contributing. So what that leads us to...
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Scott, that I'm the hippie faction within the board. So I hate rules. I hate constriction and stuff. So we're trying to find that balance to minimize the chaos and make the machine run effectively. But I always like, yeah, too many rules. I want people to have a lot of freedom to be able to, create what they want to create and things. So just letting everyone know I'm representing, peace, love, harmony.
Yeah, and I think it's important. We're trying to keep it as lightweight as possible. So our goal is to just make sure there's enough structure so that we can make decisions easily. That more importantly, less chaos, people can understand, how to make decisions, how to engage with projects, what the projects are, all that sort of thing to help streamline and help us grow over time. So what you'll see when you look at the governance, there's not a lot of extra rules. It's very much what we've all been doing already. It's just putting it down in a place that people can refer to it rather than asking to find out what is the tribal knowledge of the organization so that we can get it done. So it's not going to be it's not going to be very detailed. Oh, it's detailed enough, but we're kind of striking that balance. So we'll move toward a structure that looks like very basically like any other, a lot of you have been in other organizations, other open source organizations, this is going to look very familiar. So we're not doing anything unique. So we'll have initiatives, which is our technical working groups. We'll have committees that are working on things outside of technical working groups. We'll have a core project management team board, just like the core team is kind of today, providing guidance and making sure that the projects and the working groups and everybody is successful. And then we'll have our board of directors who are just today our co-project leads that are, but the difference is we're extending things like terms so that we can have some turnover and the ability to extend the community in the long term. So I know that's a lot very quickly, but I wanted to give that insights before I could toss over to Sandy to go walk through her pieces, because I know she has a time limit. And I'm happy to answer any questions on this as well. So let me go ahead and forward through a bunch of slides here.
15 is where I get started. The one before that, if you do a refresh.
Yeah.
Can you do a refresh on your slides? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So
do that one?
Yep, that's it. So update on this. The update to the definitions. I went through the voting and published. It's been published on the OWASP website. I think Scott was going to look at it before the final publishing to the Gen AI website. Just a quick reminder, when we publish definitions, I'm trying to use standards. It's not always possible. So there's 2 designations. If it means approved, it means it's went through a process. We all agree that's a good definition. Standard means it points to a standard. So for ongoing, and this is where, active contributions from everybody in the group, there is a channel. If you have a definition that you would like to have included in our definitions page, please submit it. The goal is to have quarterly, we just refresh the definitions on our website with approved and designated ones. So things like agentic, all of those terms, I keep meaning to go through like a red teaming document, the CTI team, and try to pull out any terms that should be used. I just haven't been able to dig out the time. So, and the goal again, so our solution guides get smaller and we all consistently use the same definitions. Next slide, Scott. Any questions, just ping me on the channel. We had the first meeting of our AI Red Team Compass meeting. So that was last week to go from the checklist to the compass. I showed kind of the goal with that. The goal is to actually retire the checklist after the next version of the Center of Excellence document, which Scott, I think you said you're going to publish this fall, right? So
yeah,
we're going to
look
pull
at
out
this fall, yes.
Okay. So there will be some overlap between Compass and the checklist until we get the next version of the Center of Excellence document. It was a really great meeting, very well attended. Great, there's still some feedback I need to go through. We had some ideas on threat modeling. So the goal is I've created a fairly static document that points to resources. What we'd really like to do is automate more of that. So that a lot of our discussion was like, well, how do we automate the threat modeling instead of just pointing to threat modeling resources? How do we automate threat intelligence data, mapping to the MITRE and Atlas, defenses and mitigation and automation of compliance. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So this would be kind of an example, could we connect our OWASP compass, cross map it to threats in the MITRE attack and be able to give people a tool where they can actually map existing controls against MITRE and Atlas and come out. The end goal again is for them to be able to say, okay, how do I prioritize? What do I have to worry about within my environment? So next slide, Scott. Our next meeting, we're going to try after this week. We had to skip this week. I wasn't available, but after this week, we're going to try and do it every week. We have a channel, that Scratchpad document with all of the ideas. There's actually a lot of details under all of those ideas. Anyone who'd like, it's in the, I shared it, there's a shareable link in the channel right now if you'd like to add comments. And yeah, reach out to myself, or Krishna is kind of helping me on this. So if you have any feedback, comments, or anything, or wonder what we're doing, just let us know.
Yeah, and Sandy, this is great. Sandy, this is great. So one thing I'd ask is that we're going to get ready to do sort of the press release and stuff that's coming up ahead of RSA, and so it would be great if we can get the roadmap. Once you guys get your roadmap kind of settled, make sure we can get that up to the global roadmap. So just let me know when you have those dates so that we can make sure those are
Scott. I have like, I don't even want to count how many things I owe you at this point, but I will absolutely get them done. Hopefully I'm going to try and by this Friday. That's a goal. You guys can hold me accountable. To Scott by Friday, everything that Sandy owes him.
Okay. Yeah, and so for folks to know, normally we'll cover the roadmap in these calls, but I did today because we've got a lot of new things that are coming into roadmap. Bye, Sandy. Thank you very much. And from the different initiatives, so I'm asking all initiatives to kind of consolidate that. I obviously need to do the update for the Security Center of Excellence guide, and also some things coming up on the solutions guide. So that will come up. So next meeting we'll have an updated roadmap to share with everybody. And just as a reminder, we try to keep that up to date all the time. When you go to the website, GenAI website, you go to the project and then roadmaps. It should have the roadmaps for everything we're doing, as well as including translations, etc., and then connections to each of the working groups. So with that, let me see, what do we have next? So do we have anything after that? Okay, open discussion. Let me go back up here to the top. Okay, and so I'll do a couple of quick comments and then we'll get into some discussions at the end here. So first, we are making the shift. If you've gone to the website recently, as I mentioned earlier on, we're changing the name to be the GenAI Security Project for OWASP to encompass that broader focus. We are going to continue to keep the top 10 for LLM for generative AI because that is our cornerstone document of the project. And that will continue to be part of our brand. So over the next couple of weeks, you'll start to see this filter into more of our assets and content. We're going to keep for this next year dual branding between the top 10 list and the GenAI Security Project to make sure we don't lose anybody in the community in connection with what we're doing, because the only thing that's changing is the name to reflect the focus. The same work that everybody's been doing is continuing. So we'll continue to do that. The other piece is we have RSA. We're in the process of finalizing our agenda for RSA. So if you're not aware, we have our RSA Summit. We did this last year, which is the AI Security Summit at RSA. It's a half-day event that we do. This year will be on Wednesday, starting at 8:30. Unfortunately, we got shortened up by about a half an hour from last year, so we're tightening the agenda a little bit. We have a lot of things to cover since we have a lot of new research that's coming out. So this is up on the RSA conference page. It is open to all pass holders. So if you have a pass, if you have an Expo pass, it's open to you as well. You don't have to be a full conference pass. So it's open to all pass holders. It starts at 8:30 on April 30th. We'll be rolling out the final agenda by the 18th. We need to get that to RSA anyway. And so we'll have that done for everybody. So if you're attending RSA, we'll have this event here. We're also working on a community event. I'm talking with a couple actual other organizations. We're doing some partnerships we may do with COSI or a couple other groups to kind of bring together a event for us to bring our community together at the event. There's so much going on at RSA already. It's kind of hard to find a slot, but we wanted to do something. So more details for that will come next week, in 2 weeks, in our next call on that event. We just have some things to kind of finalize on that front. Any questions about RSA? Okay. Also coming up for those in Europe, we will be at AppSec 2025 in Barcelona. We have 2 sessions that we'll be covering there. I'll be covering on the project and the roadmap and how to contribute to the project. Also, we'll have John, who leads our AI, who, along with Ron, leads our agentic security initiative. He'll be talking about the AI security risks. So if you're going to be able to attend AppSec Barcelona, we'll have those sessions there. And we'll have some more details as we get the final agenda. I think the final agenda is being set, so we don't really have the times yet for the sessions, but we will get those and we'll make sure those get published. We did put out our February newsletter a bit late. It went out in March, but it was for February. Part of this was we're wanting to continue to get our engagement around the community. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter, you can also just go to our website and plug your email address in on the main page, and you'll be able to add yourself to it. We're continuing to see our subscriber growth grow. I just threw in just what I captured over the last 4 weeks. So as we've kind of done a new refresh, the refresh is getting some good feedback. So we're working to kind of get that going. And you can just go to the link there, genasecurity.beehive.com. I want to thank Krishna for all of his hard work in getting this subscriber base up. He's been running this newsletter for some time. And so we kind of took over, did a less equivalent version of it, but hopefully I want to just thank him for all of his hard work and continuing to kind of develop and drive this program. Now with this focus on red teaming, I think it's great that he's focusing on that. Now we're looking for someone to kind of help in the longer term with that, with the newsletter and other things. So that is my segue to we're looking for volunteers. So we've got a couple of job areas that we could look for some volunteers in, both on our newsletter and social media marketing lead. And it has an idea of like 5 to 10 hours per week. If you go to this website here, you can see the detailed requirements for that job, kind of what we're looking for. And as we're an all-volunteer organization, these are, of course, volunteer roles. It's a great opportunity for someone who is in marketing. They want to get some experience, both connecting themselves with the AI and security space, and continuing to demonstrate, their capabilities and ability to grow with it. So I'm open to looking at people of all skill levels to kind of help us move this forward. We have frameworks in place that make it pretty easy, and it'd be great to have folks do that. We also love to have somebody help us with physical and virtual events. We are going to be having a virtual event coming up in between RSA and Black Hat in that time frame. I met last week with a partner we're working with, CRA, Cyber Risk Alliance, who may host that event for us, which is great. And then it'll be a project, Gen AI Security Project virtual summit. And that'll help address, I know I've heard from a lot of folks, I can't get to RSA. We'll be able to have a full virtual summit for a 3/4 day virtual summit that we can involve people in there as well. All right, CTI layer update. Do we have anybody? We have Brian or Rachel?
Yeah, Brian, do you want to take this or you want me to?
Yeah, I can take it. Sorry, that was across the room. So we have 2 kind of ongoing work streams right now. The exploit generation research initiative. So I think that this was published before the last meeting, but I wasn't able to make it. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to everyone who helped out with that, giving feedback. Thank you to Scott for helping kind of usher that along into publishing. We had a big influx of new volunteers to the channel who are interested in working on this. And so we're going to be ready to like task those volunteers, I think, in about a month. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye out. We also have ongoing the AI incident response guide. We did also receive additional volunteers last week for that. However, I'm not sure we could take any additional people just to make sure work kind of continues apace. And so thankfully work is happening in earnest. Target release by the end of May, optimistic by the end of April. If you'd love to get involved, join our channel, Team LLM AICTI, and note that we do have a recurring bi-weekly meeting opposite the weeks of the main group meeting. So the next meeting is going to be next Thursday, 3:20 at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah,
Any
and I think we Brian and I we probably owe Sandy some definitions from our deepfake guide. So I'll take the ball on that. I'll rip through it and pull out any definitions we can send over to her.
Awesome. Any questions for Brian or Rachel? Okay. We'll keep rolling then. Let's see. I think that's actually all we have in terms of slides, because we already went through that with Sandy. So it's now just open discussion. So for anybody who has any items that we didn't bring up during the conversation earlier that they want to bring up or highlight, now is the opportunity to do that. Or if anybody who's new who has questions, this is a great opportunity to ask questions.
Yeah, I had a question, and I just joined the AICTI team, and one thing that I noticed is because I'm new and I see a ton of, pretty much everywhere I look at, there is an attack paper published. And I was just wondering if there is any sort of initiatives, kind of sound funny, but maybe like a study club where people study all these attacks and share the knowledge of how they're done and also how they can be detected. There's a lot of machine learning experience that I think is required, not just security. So I was just kind of wondering about that. And I was thinking, being in Bay Area, does a meetup make sense to gather people and talk about these attacks? Just to understand the landscape and then build better detection mechanisms for that.
I think that's a great suggestion. So on two fronts. So Rachel and Brian, what are your thoughts?
So here's my hot take. A lot of the papers that you are seeing, they're being done by researchers. I actually have a GitHub. It's gotten a lot of attention. It's been like licensed to a couple vendors and stuff for them to use. Like Tidal uses my work, where I've actually enumerated all the reports of actual in the wild attacks. There's been a few more recently that have been released, like OpenAI and Google had a few. But I think there's a lot more hype and a lot more researchers in this space than there is like a documented evidence of actual threat actor activity. So that's my hot take on it at large. My other piece to this is if you go to my GitHub, or you are looking at a research paper, you can probably map what's being done to MITRE Atlas, which will give you like kind of a nomenclature of how to describe that attack. And then you can also kind of reference the AI security solutions landscape, which will also sort of tell you what that's work that OWASP has done, and that'll also kind of tell you what security solutions exist in those spaces. So to be honest about the how do you detect it piece, that is a difficult conversation to have holistically, because I would almost venture to say most organizations have not yet deployed the type of monitoring and security tooling that's needed to just get the telemetry in order for you to build attack collections or build attack detections. So it's very hard to speak about how to detect these things in a very like broad sense for everybody, because not everybody is doing things like prompt filtering and output filtering and gathering that data in a centralized logging in order to do statistical analysis. We certainly can try to set something up. My feeling is you're going to have a whole lot of people coming saying, I would love to learn this, and not very many people being able to offer you solutions or suggestions that aren't, well, I use this security tool at my organization and we have these kind of alerts. I don't think my personal like opinion about this, I think it's a great endeavor, but my personal opinion about this is that I don't think there's been enough maturity in this space for very many organizations to collaborate and provide their insight that isn't going to be extremely vendor specific to just the tool they are using, right? Like if we were talking about cloud security solutions, I've been in cybersecurity long enough that I have used like 15 different WAF firewalls, right? We could have a more holistic conversation about how web application firewalls do bot detection. We're not yet really there in terms of the AI landscape. I'll turn it over to Brian and anyone else who might want to like maybe has a different opinion, because I know that's a little bit of a hot take about, kind of where I see people are at.
It's like, I guess my kind of take is, it's like funny oh, sorry, Russell, do you want to go ahead? Sorry, I just
No,
jumped in.
go ahead, Brian. That's fine. After you.
Okay. So I was gonna say, I wanted to some extent, kind of echo Rachel there, in terms of the fact that Rachel and I also run a working group that's like healthcare focused on AI, and we're frequently, having this thing where we're like, okay, what are your organizations doing around this? And it's kind of like crickets, right? And so, to the maturity point, I think there's just not a lot of useful advice that might come from other people. Something that, in terms of productive, maybe getting to what you're interested in that we could do is thinking about organizing some sort of monthly, let's say, like research digest via the AI CTI initiative, right, where we put together and highlight interesting research that's come out for the last month. That being said, I feel like the kind of bulk of the research that comes out though is just like, here's the nth new kind of prompt injection technique, which is, on the one hand, interesting, but on the other hand, not particularly interesting, right?
Yeah, I think especially as the kind of consensus is moving more and more towards, you shouldn't rely on the LLM itself to be resistant to all prompt injection. You should be putting a security tool on top of that. That's why I think like the document, like the Center of Excellence initiative under OWASP has been producing, is a good starting point. That's about the most generic security best practices document out there generally, like in the world.
Yeah, so and agreeing 100% with Rachel and Brian, I'm in a group that we do a lot of consulting, talk to hundreds of companies about what they're doing, and typically crickets, right? Who's in charge of this? Oh, I don't know, the sysadmin. No, he hasn't got a clue, right? So part of our challenge, and we've talked about this a lot, is again talking about the Center of Excellence. It's who's implementing this. It's a FOMO thing. A lot of this is coming from board of directors, C-level. They don't know products, but if you follow the money from the other level, companies like Varonis who do data protection, Okta who does identity protection, have tools that they're rolling out. Okta's got some specific things around agentic AI. Hey, we show all these agents. What about permissions? Hey, it's going to use my credit card. Is there a limit on that? How long can we use it for? So there are companies doing those, and some of those companies, security is another one. They have AWS has actually little certifications you can do, like a 10-hour course. I think these are useful for looking at what the state of the art is. But agreeing 100%, look at where the money is, what people are spending on, what are they trying to sell, is where a lot of the interesting thing is. There's a lot of other people saying, oh, pick me, I've got something. If I do this and this, then I got through. Okay, well, fine. And a million other people too, right?
Yeah, I think, there might be some benefit for you to look at, the CTI layer. Brian's taking the lead on. We're trying to create an incident response guide, right? And we're trying to create, and this came from a very organic conversation between Brian and I, where we looked at each other, and I was like, "Hey, Brian, I'm getting the feeling like if there's an AI like incident, if somebody like comes to the cybersecurity team and is like, I think our AI is being attacked." I feel like I'm the one who's going to be leading that incident response, and I have absolutely no idea what to do. And I looked at him and I was like, I kind of feel like that's your case too. And Brian's like, yeah, actually, they would probably come to me. And there isn't really a document out there. So there is a little bit of work that's being done on that.
Yeah,
That really,
I joined that group as a volunteer, and actually
yeah,
right on the Word doc, and I'm actually right now putting a section that wasn't there about preparation, which is,
yeah,
ahead of
That's
time.
awesome.
Detection is one thing, but ahead of time, and just yesterday and the day before, I went on Protect AI website. They have like a what they call MLSecOps course. It's like several hours, but the number of things that they're adding on like their like a CI/CD infinity loop things that you're supposed to do, and there's a lot around what's in the infrastructure and what's in the model and data pipe and all that stuff. So that's why
yeah.
but going through all the attacks that they published, I've seen something on this company called Prompt Foo, and everything, points to a paper that is published, and it's just kind of inundating, trying to read, going through all this. So that's why.
Yeah, that's why I kind of like Atlas for like a higher level categorization rather than getting deep in the weeds. But I mean, yeah, if you're part of the incident response guide, that it sounds like you're in the right place. I think we might. This space is evolving so rapidly. Like even the work John and those guys did to create the security solutions landscape. I don't think we could have produced that even a year ago. So
No,
yeah, I
we
think
couldn't. We
So
couldn't. So
yeah.
the thing is like the first step, I'm adding a preparation step, but the original one, the step one was detection and analysis. And they're asking these really tough questions, like how do I detect data poisoning? How do I detect this and that? And it's like, how the hell do you detect these if you don't know exactly how they're conducted, right? So
Well,
I
and
mean,
I think that
I'm
this
new,
is
so you guys have been around here for years. But for somebody like me, it's like, how do I get my handle around first, how are they conducted? And then detection is a whole different, much more difficult ball game, right? It's
well,
like,
well, and part of this is who do I call? Just like Rachel said, there should be someone in charge. So this is an AI governance, an organizational issue. Who do I call? Who owns this? Who owns it from a technical, a business perspective, a reputational, a legal issue? Those are all part of the solution, right? And it's also non-deterministic. Hey, if I have a problem with a database in an incident response, I fix the database. Or is it network? Is it identity? Is it vulnerabilities, right? But you can't just do that. I have poisoning. I have over reliance in my model. Who do I call on that? Well, it's not just then fix this thing, insert this SQL statement, run this tool. So that non-determinism is also another part of the problem. But I think, yeah, I'm also working in incident response. We're looking at that. But what is an incident in the first place? Who do you call? What do you do about it? And how far upstream is it? But you've got standard things like supply chain, data DLP, identity and access, least privilege, network security. So Palo Alto, Varonis, all these companies are doing bits in this, but how do they fit together is part of the question.
yeah, and we are doing so. I am doing an update on the solutions landscape. So I update that quarterly. So we're going to try to capture as much of this as you mentioned. There's a lot of new solutions and tools coming in. I get roughly 10 new solutions every 2 weeks, I would say, on average, that get added to the landscape. We're well over 100 different types of solutions, and I'm going to start layering in use cases on top of it. So when we start looking at red teaming, when we start looking at doing some preparation, so there'll be some use cases we'll layer in on top of the existing lists to help people kind of dive in a little bit more. So hopefully that will help. But I think your suggestions here around, the reality is a lot of this is coming from a research perspective, not necessarily from an implementation or from a real world perspective yet. Striking that balance, I think, is important. I do want to comment on your thought about doing a meetup here locally in Silicon Valley. I think that's a good idea. we can look at doing something here. Since a number of folks are here, we can start looking at getting some meetups for the project. I think would make sense. We all obviously OWASP has lots of meetups, regional meetups, but it might be interesting to do a couple of project meetups as well if people are interested.
Okay.
Maybe I can find someone to lead kind of pulling some of that together.
Thank you.
Oh, and one thing I do want to comment that I didn't include in here, this is an experiment since we're talking about threats in the wild that Rock had an idea on that we kind of actioned to kind of test, which is to kind of capture monthly or bi-monthly, depending upon what the threat landscape is, published through a blog for the project, the capturing some of the key risks. I can do a quick little impromptu push. So if people are, so as part of our blog, we put this out as a test, which is to try to capture, and this is something we should coordinate, Rachel, you and Brian, this was more from a perspective of we wanted to do sort of a roundup of exploits, was the idea to kind of help us educate our channels more about it, something that would be more kind of quick and dirty. Since, as we all know, we've been trying to move quickly because this is a rapidly changing space. So we did two things. One, we started out with this blog we just pushed out, but haven't really promoted a lot. And that was just the idea is just let's look for the last month or 2 months. What were the things that we picked up, and highlighting things that weren't necessarily research. So this isn't necessarily on the preparation side, but this is just on the back end side, looking at saying here are a few things that we saw and impacts, and educate folks around that for a very basic level. And then the idea was to leverage crowdsourcing on this, so that we could have folks, if you had an initiative or an incident or exploit that you found, you could simply submit it, and then that would be a resource for us to use as to investigate or to come up with some feedback on it. So this is something we're just testing. So it would be good to know. We wanted to talk about what the summary was, impact assessment, what the attack breakdown was, what are the vulnerabilities.
So my only thought here is if this is like I saw one that was about storm, so on and so forth,
Yeah.
and I think I actually have the one captured on my GitHub. What I would say is some of these we might want to think about categorizing. So for instance, like the GitHub I have, when I look at these incidents, I try to map them to either Atlas or attack using the MITRE nomenclature. And then if a TTP by MITRE does not already exist, I make one up. Essentially, I suggest one. And that's part of why my work has been licensed to those organizations so that they can take that and then use it and update their own. So we might think about doing something similar. I don't track deepfake or like misinformation, malinformation, that kind of stuff on my GitHub. So we might think about something like that, like particularly, I think having TTPs that we can articulate and maybe like have a relationship with MITRE Atlas where we're passing them information and reports to get them to update their TTP mapping for some of these would be useful. And it that kind of and then also with like some of these other ones, like like I saw one that was about like some deep fake crypto scam that was on your screen, right?
Yeah. These are the four that we found that doing some searching that were. This one was research, right? So we call out. It's like that's a research one, which we know these are more reported in the wild, right? And it's trying to get a feel for the impacts of those financially, et cetera. So more just kind of a quick summary, because there seemed to be
I was just trying to think like we're by setting this up and people coming to us, we are gathering some super valuable information. I was just trying to think about how we can sort of best transform these things into products later that serve the community. With the deep fake stuff, we we have enough interest in the deepfake guide, Brian and I have been talking about maybe doing an update release of that, like on a regular basis. So that's why I thought it might be good if we could categorize some of these. And then, when we're ready to update the deepfake guide, we now have a huge list of examples we can also include in that for people to use. And then like with the TTP thing with MITRE, if people are coming to us and doing reporting, they might not have also shared that with MITRE Atlas. And MITRE Atlas desperately, like I've talked to Dr. Christine Lagarde, who kind of like runs Atlas, and they are desperate for this type of data. So that could be a really great way for us to, kind of help that project and also bring visibility to OWASP's contribution to the MITRE project, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's great.
If I may, please, on data gathering methodology initiative, that's one of the things that we strive to do. And I can say that weekly, I get approached by companies to test their products and services in terms of the threat landscape. And when sharing data, a lot of companies, they're really hesitant on doing because they see this as a competitive advantage on the landscape. So everyone wants to be first. Everyone wants to be the hot guy on the block with the new thing around. So I think we should centralize. I love the idea. I think that's what we need to be doing. That's what I tried doing quite a bit. I approached many companies, send out emails, set up calls and all of that, and many times that was the answers that I got, like we don't want to share because we want to be the first, and what isn't it for me if I share? So just some food for thought, but I think that shouldn't be a blockage for us to do that and to centralize what to have this database with threats and things that are going on the wild. And even if it means creating synthetic data for us to explore and try to predict what is the new thing around.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point that there are a lot of, there's research teams that most of the vendors have that are working on trying to come up with details around that. I think our thoughts on this were just super simple, which is just for the things that are public, provide some place that we're just capturing them for folks kind of going forward and see, because our threat landscape, we don't know how fast things are going to churn as more applications get deployed, how many more incidents are going to be publicly identified, etc. We know they're going to be more. So at some level,
and that's a big part. The publicly part, like everyone needs to realize there is zero regulation that requires these companies to give us any information about this stuff. Yep. So unless the attack results in the disclosure of regulated data, we have to realize there is a huge blind spot that we are operating in.
Yep.
Sorry, Russell, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just saw today that Spain is passing a regulation where things have to be labeled if it's AI produced, and significant fines, like 7% of GDP, kind of 7% of your revenues kind of thing, large fines. So I just saw that. I haven't read the details, but that's the start. Obviously, these things typically happen in Europe first. But just on that, I'm in AI has a pretty good, LA has a pretty good AI group called AILA. They have a responsible AI group. Within that, there was someone from SAG-AFTRA, that represents the 170,000 people there. They've got a specific working group on deepfakes, which is obviously very important for them, for voice, for images. This guy actually had been cloned into a game, without his permission. So Rachel, I can put you in touch with that guy if you like. There might be a good source of information. They've tried to influence policy, tried to influence what's happening actually in SAG-AFTRA they've met with.
Yeah, send them a mic. Yeah, heck yeah. Okay. Give me the contact. I'd love that. Thank you so much.
That's good. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and just on another point too, I think one of the things I've asked Aubrey, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it with him a little bit more too, is I want to get for each of the initiatives, like you're mentioning, Manuel, I want to make sure that we can very quickly articulate for everybody what in each initiative is focused on, because I think we are to the point where we have a lot of things going on, and sometimes it's difficult for people to figure out exactly who's doing what. So I think that just like a 3-minute, 4-minute video, not even that, maybe 2-minute video of just like, hey, this is our initiative, here's what we're doing, come get involved, something like that we can make available to people might help kind of guide people a little bit too.
Absolutely. And I think all of the initiatives they intertwine as well. They have cross references along the board, and then it is important to look at them from specific standpoint. I think that is really valuable too, and I think we're heading on a great direction, anyways. And then just want to add on what I was saying. The security professionals they got to understand, and a lot of them do that. And what we do at OWASP is it's very good because it brings everyone together, because solve these problems is hard, and the power of communities is what make you ahead of the game.
Well, that's a good advertisement. Yes, for sure. I think we're all bought in on that one, but yes, that's great. Great articulation, Emmanuel.
So Scott, I was gonna say, if you don't mind, I want to jump back really quickly to that AI incident database that you're trying to collect. So I just really also wanted to, kind of reinforce Rachel's point about trying to kind of, let's say, map or tag those effectively, because as part of the AI incident, guide, I went out and tried to find every kind of database like that, right, of AI incidents, because there just aren't that many kind of useful examples to think through that are publicly known. Right. Yeah. And so something that I will say is that multiple of the kind of like incident databases that I've found appear to basically have been abandoned, right? Like set up with the best of intentions and then kind of no longer really maintained. And so I think, thinking about how we can have like a real value add, right, beyond just a list, I think is really critical to keep up the health and also make it a great community resource. Like I really love this idea, and happy to put some time into thinking about how to process those incidents into things that other people can use. But it is something that I noticed where there are like, I think 4 or 5, incident databases going around, and I think only really one of them is still actively maintained.
Yeah, I think this was also a conversation I had with Emmanuel when we were talking about the data mapping and creating a database, literally a live database that we could do that with, that could be updated and people could query and that sort of thing. So I think that, to your point, there's a lot of challenge when you just kind of set up an incident database, because, I don't know the organization behind it and how much energy they have, so it's, I found, like you, that several of them have kind of fallen by the wayside. But if we want to evolve this into something like that, I think that would be great. We were just trying to obviously take the simple path right now, which is just create a list and move past that.
So yeah,
Sounds
just to add on to what Rachel and Scott said. So like with the top 10, right? You guys already map the specific techniques, so you could also use that. So if you see one of those incidents maps to one of the top 10, you could list that. And also within each category of the top 10, there's a section in there for framework, which maps to the atlas and tells you the atlas technique. If you look at each one of those top LLM top 10s, there's a specific section in there that maps to atlas, and it tells you the exact technique that's being used for atlas. So I think if you do the mapping for the top 10 and also atlas, I think that'll be great. That'll be great.
Are you talking specifically about any database that we create?
No, so
or just
list,
or for the blog, like included in the blog? Because the blog is just to get content out there and some news out there, right? It's like a news roundup.
Yep.
So I'm sorry, I might have spoken over you. I didn't hear your.
No. So this is just echoed what, because Rachel was mentioning that we should probably also consider mapping it to MITRE I'm just saying, yes, we could do both. We could, because a lot of security people, they understand MITRE. You say MITRE, they get that. They get the mapping. So I think it's important that we, carry on with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as Rock said, this was just kind of designed to be sort of a capturing the news, kind of what's the latest kind of news kind of blog around the things that are coming out. But if we want to take it further, we can do that. And thinking this, we tried to do some initial mapping, for example, to the, prompt LLM top 10 for these different ones. So they're exploits that people know that there are vulnerabilities that they're exploiting. At the same time, the thought was there are a lot of non-security specialists who are executives who are also kind of wondering about what is this list. And so ability to give them some insight at a high level and then provide drill down, I think, could be something to look at kind of going forward. Do that kind of technical mapping.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder, instead of reinventing the wheel, if we should work with incident database AI or one of the ones that are already out there and have that plumbing in place, right? And then maybe we pick up the maintenance or something like that.
So why don't we fine tune a model to do the classification for us, right?
Well, this was generated, but not a very fine-tuned model.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think I was terribly fine-tuner. I think we were just kind of trying to pull what we could pull together and Rock myself. So
there's only 10 things in the top 10. We could randomly place it in 2 of them or something, and we'll get somewhere.
Okay. It's good. So, I mean, we can take this as another discussion item to see kind of, I wanted to just share that we're doing this, and then we could decide how to kind of move it forward in different ways.
And I think at the top, Scott says something like, we'll publish this like regularly-ish. So
yeah, I said this is
yeah.
I did not commit. So this is not an exhaustive list, but a semi-regular blog. Yeah. So not knowing exactly kind of what the interest would be, also the speed at which we're going to get public things we can reference, because to your points, everybody's points, there's a lot of things people keep close to the vest, whether it's a vendor because they want to differentiate, whether it's a company because it exposes their lack of compliance or their risks to their business. They don't want to talk about it. So there's a lot of incentives to not share in this industry, as we know. So, we didn't really know how many of these we're going to be able to pick up in a month.
Yeah, and that's not unique to AI, right? That's just in the cyberspace in general. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right, well, back to any more comments on that. I'm going to go back to our open discussion. Any other topics people want to bring up? Silence.
Yes, Scott, did you hear anything about the red team, those 2 companies, the one in Singapore, and then I think the other one was Synac, about doing the testing for the red team?
Yeah, I mean, the team in Singapore, both Synac is very much interested in working with us on that, and then so is the CSA. They sent me their last set of content. So if I'm happy to kind of stir and drive, get that rolling again. I know Krishna had tried to reach out and get things rolling. I had an initial meeting with them, so if I need to be more actively involved in that, I'm happy to do that to kind of get it going.
Thank you.
So do you want me to get actively involved in that?
No. Speak to Sandy about that. See what she thinks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and as I mentioned to Sandy, I will do as I mentioned, I will do an update of the Center of Excellence Guide. So I'll have a kickoff meeting happening for that probably in the next month. So probably be April. We'll have the kickoff meeting for that, for the next version of that to be published in the October-November timeframe. And that's for the AI Security Center of Excellence Guide. Cool. All right. Well, I want to just thank everybody for joining today. I'll go ahead and wrap it up. We are just about 3 minutes over time. So thanks again for everybody. And oh, wait, we have a hand up.
That was a clap. That was just a clap. Sorry.
Oh, it's a clap. Oh, sorry. It's a clap. Sorry. I can't. I think my eyes are going. So yes, that was a clap. Thank you very much. All right. So thanks everyone, and have a great rest of the day. Take care.
You're welcome.
Thanks for checking out our bi-weekly meeting podcast. If you'd like to stay up to date on all the latest news for the OWASP Top 10 for large language model applications, please click subscribe. And of course, we'd appreciate it if you'd share with a friend to grow our community. We'll see you in 2 weeks.